Metabolic Momentum and Mastery class. We're super excited to have you all here. My name is Alina Boyer, and I am a metabolic health coach. And I'm honored to teach this class alongside my coach friends, Corinne Hoyt, Cheryl Riska, and Liz Jensen. And combined, we figured out we have been coaching for 46 years combined, which is awesome. To say that this has greatly enriched my life is a huge understatement. Um, I first began my personal health journey 11 and a half years ago. I had young kids, but I didn't have the energy to be the active mom that I wanted to be. I was overweight and uncomfortable, and I was shocked to find out that I had high cholesterol in my early 30s. I tried to eat healthy and exercise and experimented with fad diets, but nothing worked very well. I finally saw real and lasting success when I began working with my health coach and our Habits of Health program. And I lost 35 pounds of fat, getting me to a healthy weight that I hadn't seen before any of my kids were born. I found confidence that I hadn't realized I had lost, and I gained strength and energy, and I felt great. I experienced a metabolic reset, and my body loved it. I learned about managing stress better and building a strong mindset, which helped me improve my relationship with others too. We're so excited to be able to share all of this information with you too. It empowered me in my life so much, and I began learning more and was eager to become a health coach to pay it forward and help others to feel empowered in their lives too. And that's really why we're all here. Um, Even most recently with me, fast forward to a dozen years later, now that I'm 44 years old, almost 45, I found myself in need of a metabolic reset after an injury, a surgery, and entering perimenopause. This was an important thing that I've been learning throughout the last few months about metabolic health. And I was able to have a successful reset, just really focusing and honing in on the things that we're going to be teaching with you guys. I have more energy and stamina to enjoy the summer activities that I love, like hiking and kayaking and going on walks with my family. So that's a little bit about me and my story. And I want to share a little bit about the purpose of this class and the vision that we as metabolic health coaches have to be able to share things with you guys during this six-week or six-course class. Let me go ahead and share my screen really quickly. Let's see. Sorry about that. Let's see if I can get this. There we go. Okay, so here is our Metabolic Momentum and Mastery class. A little picture of me from the most recent metabolic reset that I've been experiencing and hiking with my family. Um, let's see. Oops, sorry. This is going to be something that we're doing as we continue with this class. The purpose that we have is really to create a community that's a place where everybody is focused on making improvements to their metabolic health. And we're going to have each class be teaching some practical tips and advice about improving our metabolic health physically and things that we can do in that respect, and also creating some mental resilience and working on mindset because those go hand in hand, and that part is also important in order to be able to see long-lasting results that we all want, so that we can enjoy the things in life that we want to enjoy and feel our very best. So as we go on in this, sorry, I'm just trying to get to my notes here. I'm not still sharing my screen, am I? No. Okay. Thank you. Sorry about that. Um, okay. I'm sorry. I'm technical difficulties over here for just a moment. Um, so for me, or for all of us, we are working on helping people to be able to improve and learn and grow in a community that's helpful for them. We're also going to focus on some accountability and growth and long-term health. And as we've set up a Facebook group as well, so you'll be added into the Facebook group where we can interact there, and that will be really helpful. Um, some of the physical strategies we're learning about nutrition, some building movement, um, fat loss and metabolic optimization. Plus, we're going to learn about overcoming mental blocks and stress management, some behavioral tools. One thing that we recommend is to be able to help with that accountability piece is to use a metabolic scale. And if you don't have one of those or you don't know what it is something that it helps to measure all the metrics that are really important that get to things that we're going to be teaching you more about as we move forward with your metabolic age, your visceral fat, your muscle mass, like those types of important things. And there's one that we like to use that is inexpensive that you could get on Amazon for $25. It's called the Renfo scale. But a special perk that we're doing for the people who are participating in this class is that you qualify to get a free scale from us if you opt in to work one-on-one with the coach that invited you to this class. So that's just a little thing for you to know about as well. And as we continue forward, we're going to take some turns sharing different concepts with you and teaching you and just giving you some basic information. And we will go in depth throughout the rest of the classes in this series, even more on all of these topics as well. So I'm going to turn the time over to our next presenter, who is Corinne, to teach us a little bit more.
Yes, yes, yes. I'm so excited to kind of start talking a little bit about what we call in this community structural tension. And this really helps us with our goals. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit today and a little bit later about goals more in depth, but this kind of gives us some ideas of how to create these goals, right? So if you think about a rubber band, I have a rubber band right here. A rubber band, if it's just like dangling here, right? It really doesn't have any tension. It's not really doing anything. What happens is when you stretch it, it creates some tension, right? Um, so I don't know if you guys have ever taken a walk before. Maybe you're with a group of people, maybe you have kids with you. So I have a bunch of kids, and every time I take walks, I no doubt have a child that kind of walks a little bit slower than the rest of the group, right? And so sometimes I'll get behind him and I'll kind of like push him a little bit, right? But I don't know if you guys have ever noticed, but that tends to make them upset, right? If you're like pushing them from behind, like, "Hey, come on, we gotta go, we gotta go," it just like makes them upset, like they're pushing my hand out of the way or something like that. Sometimes it's the same thing with our goals, right? And so sometimes the things that push us, they're not necessarily bad or anything like that, and they're not negative. But once we get to a certain spot, it no longer is pushing us anymore. So sometimes those things are maybe a number on the scale, right? Have you guys ever reached a number on the scale and you're like, okay, well, I am done now, so I don't have to do anything else, right? Or and maybe feeling some guilt over your current health status, or maybe you're afraid of what is going on, which again, none of those are bad things, right? They're all good things that help us move forward. Being pushed also helps us move forward, right? But we also want to create something that helps pull us towards the future, right? And so sometimes that is a more compelling vision of like what we imagine our future self living like, right? Maybe it's having a different, higher standard for our lifestyle. Maybe it's having a really powerful and deep why. Sometimes you'll hear like have a why that makes you cry. And for me, it doesn't always bring tears, right? Sometimes I like to just say having a why that evokes emotion and really having something that is pulling you forward because sometimes your why makes you really excited. It doesn't necessarily bring tears to your eyes, but it just like makes you excited to want to do the work, right? And that's something that's going to pull you forward and it's going to um, help you accomplish those goals. So if your motivation is just weight loss, though, I can tell you from personal experience, and I've been coaching for over 12 years, I have seen this many times with many clients. If your only motivation is weight loss, it won't last, right? Because what happens when you lose the weight? You feel like you're done. And if we don't always have something that's pulling us and that is keeping us moving forward in our health and having bigger goals and more goals and the next goal, things like that, um, we become a little complacent. And again, when we're complacent, our rubber band looks like that. I don't know if you can see it very well. Right? So we really have to have that tension of pushing and pulling and to be able to move forward with our health. And so your pull could also be maybe you want to have more energy. These are just some ideas. So maybe if you have a piece of paper and a pen next to you, take some notes about like, oh, that kind of sounds like that could be for me. You want to have more energy, right? You want to live longer. You want to have longevity, right? You want to have strength. Maybe I want to have all these combined. I want to be older and I want to have strength to do things and I want to have more energy, right? Do you see what I'm saying? And then maybe it's being present for your family because you don't have that brain fog and you're feeling like happy with life and things. And then also working on disease prevention. Maybe that is something that is near and dear to your heart as well. And so, again, your pull must be bigger than the scale. We cannot rely on motivation and weight loss alone. Um, and so, especially with these classes that you're going to be learning about, metabolic health. And so, for a lot of people, I know this is a big thing for me, my metabolic health is something that pulls me and pushes me, honestly. It has really helped create that structural tension in my life, to be able to focus on my metabolic health. And so we're actually going to learn a little bit more about that today. So I'm going to turn the time over to Liz, and she is going to start explaining metabolic health.
Yes, thank you. And I love that vision of always having something to pull you forward. And so during this class, we really wanted to have that our focus, helping us have that desire to keep moving forward in our health, in our metabolic health. And so a lot of you may have already taken the metabolic scan. If you haven't, reach out to the person that invited you and ask for that link. Or maybe you have a metabolic scale that is already telling you your metabolic age. It's already telling your visceral fat number, your muscle mass number, your body fat number, your bone mass, all of those things. Those are just things of information to help keep you moving forward. And so today I just wanted to share a little bit, since this is our first class, what is metabolic health? Because some of you might not even know what that means, right? Because it's not something that we talk about a lot, probably something that you've heard before. But metabolic health is basically how your body processes energy at a cellular level, how it uses your food, and how efficiently it manages blood sugars, fats, insulin. And so, in simple terms, if you are metabolically healthy, your blood sugar is really good at staying stable, or your body's really good at controlling those blood sugar levels. Your body is processing and storing fat properly. So the sugars being burnt from your muscle first instead of just going into fat storage. And you're eating well to be able to burn fat and not muscle, because that's what happens a lot of times when you try to lose weight and you restrict your calories. You're often not eating the right foods, and if your blood sugar is not balanced and you're not getting the protein you need, your body will actually just burn muscle and not fat. And so when your body is really good at using both glucose or sugar or carbs for energy, but also being able to switch to fat storage for energy, that's when you're very metabolically healthy. You also respond to insulin well. You are able to maintain a balanced cholesterol and triglyceride level, say that fast 5 times, and regulate your blood pressure. So this made me think of a client that I'm working with, that we've been working with the metabolic scale. She had a few numbers that she wanted to get into range before her next doctor's appointment. And the last doctor's appointment, her doctor said that she was probably going to need to get put on blood pressure medication because her blood pressure was a little high. Also, her cholesterol was a little high, and she was not in a normal range for her weight. And so he wanted to put her on a few different types of medication, but she wanted to work on her health first. So he gave her 6 months and really wanted to have her work on those numbers. And so she was really excited to be going back to the doctor, because because her visceral fat number was in that healthy range and she was working on her metabolic health, she was really excited and confident to know that she would not have to get on those medications. And so that's one really empowering thing about metabolic health is it gives you the power and control of your health. Because a lot of doctors will just give you medication to cover up some of these symptoms of metabolic dysfunction instead of reversing it. And so when you can take control of that metabolic health, you have control of your health. And so that's really empowering. So what does metabolic health look like? So there's some early stages. Maybe you're not on medication or your doctor hasn't threatened medication yet, but the early stages of metabolic dysfunction is fatigue or low energy. Despite getting sleep, maybe you feel like you need that afternoon pick-me-up or a nap in the afternoon, or you just wake up feeling tired. Maybe you have strong sugar or caffeine cravings, brain fog, poor concentration, stubborn belly fat starting to appear. Blink twice if you've had any of these symptoms, because if so, you're not alone. 90% of Americans suffer from metabolic dysfunction. So 90% of Americans struggle with one of these or several of these symptoms. A middle stage would be mood swings, irritability, anxiety, poor sleep, trouble falling or staying asleep, blood pressure creeping up, frequent urination or increased thirst. So Alina mentioned perimenopause. These are often correlated with those symptoms, right? Because things are going on with the visceral fat during that perimenopause. When your estrogen levels drop, that you're gaining more visceral fat and your blood sugars are unstable. And so a lot of these symptoms are creeping up. And so we call them symptoms of perimenopause, but they're actually symptoms of metabolic dysfunction because they go hand in hand. Now, some later stages might be skin changes, like you might be noticing skin tags, dark patches, breaking out like you're a teenager again, or maybe you're noticing more belly fat or weight gain around the middle. Maybe your cravings are getting more intense. You just crave sugar a lot or carbs, and you're having those energy crashes, those strong cravings. You feed that craving and you feel good for 20 minutes, and then your energy crashes again. Your blood sugar is kind of like on a roller coaster. Or maybe you've had your labs come back showing that your insulin levels are not stable or triglycerides are off or A1C or cholesterol. So those are all later stages of metabolic dysfunction. And so these symptoms don't mean that the disease is inevitable, but these are warning signs that your body is struggling. And so it's time to take action. And these are things that are reversible, which is very good news that we can reverse these symptoms. And I don't know if any of you have teenagers that have started to drive, but I think of this like a new driver. I have a 16-year-old, and when you get a new car, a lot of times you don't know how to take care of it, right? You just think that it's always going to work well. You don't have to do anything to maintain it. And a lot of times as teenagers or even in your 20s, you might have felt that way. You could eat whatever you want, you could stay out late, and your body just shows up for you. But over time, you start noticing things. Maybe you have a check engine light come on your car, and you say, "What? I didn't know you had to put a certain type of gas in the car," or "I didn't know that the filters needed to be changed or the oil needed to be changed." That's kind of like our metabolic health. Often, our bodies are running great, but then we start having signs that something's going wrong and that we need some maintenance. And so that's where a metabolic reset is really helpful to just get your body back into balance and get your body working for you again. And so I want you to just think about which of these symptoms that we talked about are you noticing? Do you notice more than one with the mood changes or the brain fog? And now, these are some of the more severe ones. If you have cholesterol, blood sugar, high blood pressure, excess weight in your abdomen, or hypertriglyceride, if you are on any medications for that's more of a bigger check engine light coming on that we need to do something about it. And so when you have at least 3 of those symptoms of metabolic dysfunction, you actually have metabolic syndrome. And so 39% of Americans actually have metabolic syndrome. So I just want to take a second and just put in the chat what your number, how many of those symptoms do you notice in your own life? Are you noticing any of those symptoms of metabolic dysfunction? And so as we go through these courses, we're really going to become empowered on what to do about these and how to change, our health overall. And so, why it matters is because metabolic, I'm just going to stop sharing. One really important thing to know is most all of this stems from visceral fat. And now that's the fat that you can't see. It's not like the squishy fat that you can grab onto. It's the fat that's wrapping around your organs. And it's making them so they are not running efficiently. And it's kind of like when you think of, we just actually had our air conditioning break yesterday on Father's Day. We've all just been sweating. We got it fixed today, but it's kind of like a filter. Your liver is filtering everything that's going into your body. And when you're not cleaning that filter or putting the things into it to make it run smoothly, it gets clogged, right? And so, and that's when the problems happen. And that's when it costs more money to get it fixed. And, where we could have prevented it before by making sure we did regular maintenance on those things. And so metabolic dysfunction really starts with that visceral fat. And so that's really what we're going to be talking about, how to target that visceral fat to really clear out that area around your organs to get things running more smoothly. So hopefully that just gave you a quick overview of what is this word metabolic dysfunction, what are some of the symptoms, and give you some hope that there are some things that we can easily do to get you working like a brand new car again, feeling like your best again. And so I'm excited about these courses we're going to be talking about of steps that we can take to really make big lasting changes in our health. All right, and then so the first step to doing that, of course, is setting some goals and knowing where we're starting from and what we want to accomplish. And a lot of that is just our mindset, working on the mindset. And so Cheryl's going to share a few things that can be helpful in just getting started on making a plan or deciding some things that we can start right now to move in the right direction.
Thanks, Liz. Yeah, I think it all goes back to our mind, and all of these things are important, but it starts with our mental strength too. So we're going to talk about building some mental strength. Going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay. Awesome. Hopefully everyone can see this. And so basically our primitive brains, right? They are built to protect us. So this is what's natural and normal, is for our brains to want to seek pleasure, minimize effort, and avoid pain. You could see that with technology over the years, right? Everything gets simpler and easier. There's remotes for all the things. We want to minimize that effort and seek pleasure and avoid pain. But learning to push through that discomfort is so important, because we know that growth requires discomfort. So instead, we want to train our brain to be able to allow pain, expend effort, and seek that discomfort. Like we said, progress lives outside your comfort zone. So we want to work on getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. That's the only way that we can experience progress and change. So one thing that we wanted to talk about too, or to extend, is a daily challenge to try to do one thing every day that pushes you. Yeah, so here's a couple examples. Park farther away so you have to walk more, right? Expend more energy. Get in your car, wait to turn on the heater. Or I know some people will, turn the shower on cold for the last 30 seconds or something like that, right? Eat one bite of something you don't like, but that's healthy. Challenge yourself to do something challenging every day, and that will help us to get comfortable with discomfort. And it actually trains your brain to feel safe with that, and to know it's okay. It's okay to be uncomfortable. I've also heard it said that it's good to get out of breath at least once a day, and to feel hungry at least once a day. It's good to have your body and your brain connect that that's okay, and that you are safe. So let's see, along with that, if I can figure out how to go to the next slide. Okay, so we want to be the adult in our mind house, and to learn how to do that, because imagine your mind as a house. So we have the emotional child, the impulsive teenager. We could probably all relate to these if you've had children, right? And the rational adult, which we hope to be, but we all have a little bit of the others still within us. So we have to strengthen that adult voice instead of, having the whiny inner teenager take over. But one way to do that, or the ways to do that, would be to pause, right? Before we just react, to reflect and then respond instead of react, to really be able to listen to that adult voice and again remind ourselves that it's okay to be uncomfortable. That's how we grow. And so here, kind of a great application for this, I think, is learning the importance of this. I can't remember. Anyway, the conscious loop. So basically, we start with being incompetent with something. We, we really aren't always naturally good at everything, right? But that is something that we can work on and learn and grow. And so there are different stages that we go through, um, starting with unconscious incompetence. And that's just kind of ignorance, not knowing what we don't know. Moving through feedback to gain awareness, and then going towards conscious competence, where we're learning and we're practicing and acquiring mastery, to become competent at something. So, to kind of go through this a little bit more in detail, and I like to apply it to things in my life. And I'm a big pickleball player. So for me, this made so much sense when I applied this to how I started learning how to play pickleball. So at first, I had no clue of the rules, no clue the right way to hit the ball, the strategy, court positioning, any of that. And really, it's that ignorance. You don't know what you don't know. And honestly, sometimes people, we think we're pretty good, right? Because we don't know what we don't know. So that is something that once we gain awareness of, oh, I'm supposed to do this, I'm supposed to move here, we know that we now lack skills. We recognize, oh, there are things that I don't know that I need to work on and figure out, but I don't quite know how. Anyways, and so with that, again, when we continue to press forward, we go to the learning aspect of it, the conscious competence. We know how to do something. We start to, through training and support, we learn how to do it, but it does take a lot of effort. It's not something we can just do mindlessly, or unconsciously yet. We have to really focus on it to be able to do that. So for me with pickleball, it's like I have to really, okay, I know I don't know how to do these shots, and then I move towards that conscious competence of I've learned, someone's taught me how to do these specific shots, and I still have to really focus on it, and it takes effort. These two areas feel hard, and this is where most people quit, where they have that awareness. The thing is, you can't go back to ignorance, because it's that whole quote, right? Once you know better, do better. So you can't go back to not knowing what you don't know. Unfortunately, you know it now. But a lot of people will get uncomfortable. And this is where it comes in, being comfortable, being uncomfortable, right? Learning that skill, because the awareness and realizing that we aren't good at something or we lack a skill is a hard, uncomfortable place to be. Likewise, even learning the skill and putting in that effort, to create that competence, but it takes a lot of mental work and effort. Sometimes can be draining, and people are like, this isn't worth it. It's too much work. And so that is where a lot of people quit. But we want to train our brains to push through and to keep going. And that's where it goes back to what Corinne was talking about, I believe, about our why, and that structural tension, because we need something to push ourselves past these difficult parts of the learning process. But it is so worth it when you do. Don't quit. Hold on to that why and have it pull you forward to continue to eventually get towards unconscious competence, which is mastery. The skill is now easy and requires no effort. And this is true for our health. It's true for drinking water, where we're like, okay, I used to have to mentally tell myself, oh, drink water, or you go all day and forget, and then you're really thirsty at the end of the day. I don't know if you've ever experienced that, but that has been a thing in the past for me. And now it's just natural, it's habit. I reach for my water first thing in the morning. I take my water bottle with me everywhere I go, and it's not something that is something that I have to put a lot of conscious effort into anymore at this point. But that can be true for our different habits of health. And anyway, so this is just an example of how you can apply this to all areas of your health, and having this mental resilience is going to help you as you're building this mental strength towards applying it to your health. So anyway, that's what I've got. And I want to pass it back over, I believe, to Alina to talk about some goals.
Thank you so much. Okay, so we've learned some great things today. We've learned about creating a strong reason that is pulling us toward what we want to create. And that's in that structural tension. We've learned about metabolic health, what metabolic dysfunction is, and maybe what we're experiencing in that regard. And that we know there are some strategies that can be helpful for us. And then we've also learned about how to strengthen our mindset so we can stay the course for this whole journey and continue to experience that growth that we're looking for, building awareness and making improvements. And for part of the accountability aspect of this whole class, we are going to be setting some goals. We're going to be giving an assignment at the end of each class. And that's going to be helpful for us to be able to engage in the things that we were talking about today, to be able to have long-term health and our mental and physical transformation through this process, which is very exciting. When we talk about goal setting goals, there are things that we think about like a macro goal, like a larger goal. And I like to think of this as like, okay, well, if there's, maybe it's like, what are my summer goals or what are my 3-month goals? Something that's measurable, but it's kind of a larger goal. That's what is the thing that's pulling me. It's giving me that structural tension. Oh, this time September, 90 days from now, like, wouldn't it be amazing to feel this way, to be able to do these things? Like, what are those things that excite you, right? So I want to encourage us to think about our own personal situations and to create a macro goal. So like a big goal, 90-day goal. Maybe your macro goal is to lose 30 pounds. Maybe you want to reverse your pre-diabetes and get out of that, danger zone. Maybe you want to improve some other, blood markers that you might be working on. But those are some things that you can say, okay, maybe that's not going to happen overnight, but I have these 90-day goals and this is my vision. So I want you guys to think about that vision that you have for yourself and a macro goal, some macro goals that you might set. And then we have micro goals, and micro goals, that's a smaller goal. That's something that you can start tomorrow. Like that is something you can start today. But it's something like maybe I am committing to walk 10 minutes, a day. Maybe I'm going to commit to eat protein at every meal and lift weights twice a week. Like these are things you can start implementing now that is going to eventually over time get you to your 90-day goals. Does that make sense? So there's macro goals and micro goals. Macro goals inspire and micro goals create momentum. So that's really important because those little wins add up over time and it just builds and builds and it gets exciting. And that's where the pull is coming from because of those big macro goals that you have. So I want you guys to set some goals today. Ask yourself, what is my deeper pull? What is pulling me? What is my 90-day macro goal? And what is one micro goal that I can start tomorrow? So I want to encourage you. This is your assignment. You're going to write it down and you're going to commit to it. So write down, what is your deeper pull? What is your why? Write down your 90-day macro goal and also one micro goal that you can start tomorrow. So that's your assignment to do. In our Facebook group, you can share those things with us and we can support each other as a group. That would be a wonderful place to be able to have that support and that accountability that we're creating in this group. And another thing too is, so one last assignment is to, if you haven't already filled out a metabolic scan, to fill out a metabolic scan, which will kind of show you just where you're at with your metabolic health. Bring a little bit of awareness. And each of us has a link to a metabolic scale that we can share with you. So if you haven't received that, reach out to the coach that invited you, and that is your final assignment for this week. We're so excited to be able to continue forward with you. Our next class is scheduled for 2 weeks from today, and we'll keep posted in the Facebook group and keep connected as a community. And we're going to make improvements and have fun doing it together. So thanks so much again for being here. And if there's anything else that another coach has to add, now's the time, or else we can just bid you farewell.
Thank you. Lots of great information. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, everybody.